somewhat related, and that is MLS teams playing in the CONCACAF Champions League. A lot of people going crazy about this already, Brett. Like, just because all of them won their first game, like maybe this is our year in the CCL.
Well, I know you stand by the same stances I'm going to take, but it is just one game. Mm-hmm. And against, a lot of them are the playoff game or the intro game. They're all the intro games leading into the group stages.
Right.
I think the biggest win of the group is obviously going to be FC Dallas's win in Mexico. However, we got to look at it. It's one game. It is nice to see MLS teams stepping it up and maybe taking this tournament a little more serious than they have in the years past. Hopefully, this is a sign, a positive sign for the future.
Mm-hmm. I hope so too. But when you look down the line, as you just mentioned, a lot of the teams that we beat, we should have beat anyhow, unless you're talking about FC Dallas's win, and that was down in Mexico, and that does not happen very often, and it is happening very rarely. So in many ways, that was the one really bright spot, and I just don't want everyone to get too out of control and too overexcited about this quite yet, because there's a long ways to go.
Mm-hmm. All
right, enough of that. Another thing people were talking about online, I'm sure you may have heard about it, Brett, is the fact that not only do we have Moedu and then the confirmation that Bedoya is going to be playing at Rangers, but now Boca Negra has gone over to Rangers as well. And why all these Americans? Well, they're affordable, and that's a good thing. If you're Rangers, you're trying to build a great team with affordable players. This is an easy way to do it. All these guys play regular for the United States national team. Well, maybe Mo isn't getting as much time as he used to or as he would like. But the plain fact of the matter is, I think this is a good thing. But then you had a lot of guys online saying, Brett, oh, well, it's just the Scottish Premier League, and the Scottish Premier League outside of two teams sucks. And so they should have just come back to MLS.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say the Scottish Premier League sucks after Rangers and Celtic. They are a two-horse league. Obviously, the Rangers and Celtics are really drawing in the most money as far as the league's concerned. They're able to afford more. They're constantly in Europa, or they're constantly in Champions League. It's fun. It's fun to see, and hopefully the Rangers do well, and hopefully Boca and Bedoya and Adu also find some good, solid playing time and perform well. Like you said, they're cheap. They're cheap. They're efficient. They're decent talents. I think Boca will do well. I mean, he did well in England. He did well in France. I think he'll do well in Scotland. Bedoya, this is obviously this would be classified as a step up from his previous club.
I think so.
And then here, Rangers are taking a relatively low risk chance. He's a talented player that's seeing playing time with the U.S. national team. He was excelling with his former club, and here they're taking a chance. I'm imagining he's got to be cheaper than a lot of his alternatives, a lot of his counterparts.
Right.
And he's got talent. He's able to play a physical game. And I think he's really going to step it up.
Yeah.
So.
I think for me what it comes down to is this. If Rangers get to play European ball and they go deep into Europa or Champions League or whatever it is over the next couple seasons, and they're getting to play some of the top European teams, and they're getting some great experience, especially if you're Bedoya and you're Mo. I mean, Boca Negra's, this is kind of his swan song. This is kind of the end of his career. But for the other two, they're getting some great experience in those situations. Sure, only Celtic is really the only other fantastic team in that league, but there were always a couple other teams, that always pop up in the Scottish Premier League, whether it be Hearts or whether it be Motherwell. Or in the past Aberdeen, somebody always pops up and they're a pain in the butt to the top two. So it's not always it's not always as cut and dry as it seems. Is the Scottish Premier League front and back that much better than the MLS or even better than the MLS? I don't think so. I think, in many cases they're very. If you take Celtic and you take Rangers away from the Scottish Premier League, I'd say they're kind of like the bottom half of the MLS. Frankly, that's my opinion.
I don't watch enough SPL to really know. I do know from what I have seen, mainly of Rangers and Celtic games, that it is not the strongest of leagues, but like you said, there are a couple challenging teams that do put up a fight. Typically, Celtic and Rangers do run away with the league, or even second place position. But at least there is some competition. I've always said if I'm going to use Bedoya as an example, if Bedoya had an option between a mid-table team or let's just say, or even a lower-table team of one of the top 5 leagues, whether it be EPL, Serie A, or Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, or League One, over Rangers, I would say take the mid to low table, simply because I would rather them consistently play in a tougher league rather than playing anywhere between 3 to 5, 6 Champions League games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my personal take on people like, if he goes to Rangers, then he'll have a chance to play in Europe. And I'm like, well, if he goes to Birmingham, wow. If he goes to Birmingham, then he'll have 40-plus games of consistently challenging games.
Right, and that's why I said, Brett, it really depends on how deep they go in Europe. Because if all you're going to be counting on is the Scottish Cup and the SPL for your experience, then I think, outside of maybe 5 or 6 games a season, you're not really getting, I don't think, challenged like you should be. But, if you go to Europe and you lose in the first game and you're out of the freaking tournament, well, then you're not getting that benefit either. And you have to, all of that has to weigh in. Of course, there have been other Americans that have played at Rangers. It's been quite beneficial for their career. I think Reina played there, and then he went on to play for Sunderland and Manchester City, and I think, that didn't hurt his career at all. He was beloved there. So it's really a matter of how it works out for, I guess, individually for each player. But I don't think I would sacrifice and go back to the MLS quite yet if I'm Bedoya, or quite yet if I'm Moedu. Maybe if I'm Bocanegra, I'd consider that because, I know Bocanegra's shooting for playing in the next World Cup. Everybody knows that. And he wants to, continue to play in the top team. So he's gonna fight this right down to the next World Cup and then probably retire after that.
Say not only that, but I would imagine he's probably going to get paid better at Rangers than he would, say, at an MLS team. So,
absolutely.
There's also that factor of it. He still has a chance to play in Europe. He still has a chance to play consistently, and he'll be getting paid more money.
Yeah.
So,
no, I didn't even bring that up, and you're so right. That is a really big factor as well. Obviously, going to get paid a lot more. In Glasgow. All right. A couple more things, and one last thing, actually, and that's, Andy Najar got called up by Honduras, and, of course, he's going to go play. He said he was really excited about it, that he was finally called up. He was kind of pissed off when he didn't get called up last time, actually, but he finally got called up, and it still doesn't mean that Andy Najar can't play for the United States sometime down the road. But I don't think all of us, listen, I like Andy Najar, I think he's a good talent, but I think it's way too early to be clamoring all over the place trying to get, him to get his citizenship and play for the U.S. I just think, we're going a little bit nuts here. I think if Andy Najar goes on and becomes a great pro, which I think he will, and he plays for Honduras, I think we'll be okay with that. I don't think, he's going to go on and play for Manchester United or Liverpool or or Barcelona. I don't think that's the kind of player we're going to be missing here if that happens. But I could be wrong.
Well, and until he's actually cap tied, most likely going to be a qualifier match. Until that happens, he should continue to pursue citizenship. Because if Honduras doesn't call him up and he gets his citizenship, then he has double his options. If U.S. call him up, then obviously there's that opportunity. He is a talented player, but I agree that he's not. I think if he does go to and plays for Honduras and turns out to be a good pro, we'll be just as fine with or without him. I think nothing against him again.
Yeah.
I hope he has a great career, whether he stays in MLS or whether he moves on. But we have other players coming through the woodwork. We have Joshua Gott. We have other players. Just
people might not even know who Joshua Gott is.
Yeah, and it's just it would be nice to have him. However, I just hope that he finds some playing time, and it really would look better for MLS if you have a kid who pops up, and joins one of the teams as a homegrown talent and actually starts starting for one of the other national teams. I mean, we have other players that start and play for other national teams, but the more that we can get, the stronger our league will get.
Yeah, so. I agree. So, bottom line is let's not get too carried away about losing Andy Najar, first of all.
It's not even losing because
we haven't lost him yet.
Yeah. Never are.
Yeah, we haven't lost him yet, number one. And number two, we really don't know at this point how good of a player he's going to be. And we shouldn't jump the gun because there have been a lot of kids throughout the years that we thought were going to be the next big thing. And it just didn't happen.